Hi, is it Dyani? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name. Anyway, I wanted to do this to show you a few things. Um, One, you'd asked about hyperlinking, and then you'd asked about sources in paper. So the hyperlinking thing, you've got a little bit more of an issue than just hyperlinking. What you need to do, uh, let's see, these are not these are working as hyperlinks. But what I had meant for hyperlinks was to hyperlink to the title of the article. But you also, before you get to that stage, what you need to do for these works cited is to put them in um, MLA format for a works cited page. So let me show you how to do that. I'll show you where the resources are on the blog, and I'll walk you through one of them. Um, okay, so um, under research here, stages of the process, there's a page on citation, which I had asked people to read a few weeks ago, because one of the assignments was to go back and over your journal, reading journal posts and practice doing the citation, which I don't think that you've done yet. And I don't think that you've done any citation that I saw in a quick look on your blog. So this is really important. And if you haven't done this before, um, it can be a little complicated. So let me show you what we've got here on the page. So there's a little bit of information about why we cite and why it's important in the academic world. It is connected to plagiarism, but there are a lot of other reasons that we cite as well. In academic world, it's really important to acknowledge other people's ideas. So it's part of the ethics of not just for the sort of police plagiarism kind of thing, but also um, academic work is seen as a conversation between people, and you acknowledge the people that you're talking to. It also makes your own writing more credible, so you're not just saying these things on your own, uh, just off the top of your head. It gives you some support for what you're saying. Um, and it also, this first reason here lets your reader know if they want additional information. Sometimes it's to check whether you're accurate in what you're reporting, but also they might want other information and want to see the context of a quote that you cited, or just if the source is a long source, it may have more information than you have yourself. So there's a little bit about why we do it, but in terms of the how, um, there are two pieces to citation. One is this bit of in-text citation. So that means that when you're writing a piece that is using other materials, as you use information, whether it's the ideas, put in your own words, or quotes using the exact words from the source, or whether you're summarizing the ideas of a source. So you may have a whole article and you're cutting it down to two sentences. You need to, in your own text, acknowledge where that information came from. So if you've got this is an indirect quotation, but if you have a quote, at the end of that quote in MLA format, you're going to put parentheses and some information for an in-text source. Now, it can get complicated, but the basics that'll cover you about 95% of the time or 90% of the time is that in the parentheses after um, the quote or the summary or the paraphrase, you're going to put either the author's last name of the source, if there is an author, or the title of the source, if there isn't. Um, that's just a little bit of information, and that links the reader then will see that last name and be able to go to your works cited page at the end of your paper. Your works cited page will be alphabetized so they can read down, just like using a dictionary, and quickly find the source that you cited. And that then they'll find the author and the title and the publisher and whatever, and depending on what type of source, they'll find the information that they need, the bibliographic information to locate the source. Um, so, in terms of how to cite, I've got some resources here that go through the details. Um, so there's the in-text citation piece, and then there's the works cited piece. Um, it makes sense in a way to do your works cited before you start writing your paper. After you know what sources that you're going to use, you can get them in the proper format, because if you have this works cited done, what you're going to do when you do the in-text citation is pick off the first entry of the works cited page. So let me start with the works cited page. So there are a couple sources. One quick source is a PDF that the Writing Center has been using, and it's one of their big hits across campus. The front of this says how to do in-text citation. So here you can see the author's last name of the source. If you have a print source, that is a book or a magazine, you have it in your hand, this is something that you did not access online, then you would include a page number. If it's an electronic source, generally page numbers aren't required, because a person could find your source using a Control F. I'm not sure if you know how to use that, but if you're interested, ask and I'll show you, demonstrate how to do that. If the author's name is in the text, you don't technically need to use that. If it were an electronic source, you wouldn't need an in-text citation here, because this Hayward is going to let the person know how to get to the source. And then there's this bit about an indirect source, which there's some information on that page on the blog. There's a sample that I did with an indirect source. So we can try that out if you. I'm not sure if you're going to have any of those. It happens fairly commonly in English 101 if you're using, because often students are using papers written by or articles written by journalists. The journalists aren't necessarily the expert, so they go out to interview experts. So what we're quoting sometimes is what the expert said, but the expert didn't write the article. So you need to use the expert's name in the sentence, the author of the article that you actually had here, with this QTD period in, which stands for quoted in. But just keep an eye out for that if you're quoting people that didn't actually write the article that you have. The second page shows sample works cited. And what they've done is taken a bunch of different types of sources and done some samples out here to show you what they look like. Book is kind of the most old-fashioned basic source, and you can see a book source here. Book source has the author's last name with the last name, comma, first name, and then if there's more than one author, they're listed here. The second and subsequent authors are in regular order. There's a period here. The title of the book is italicized. It has caps here. So you see there are a lot of different pieces to this that you have to keep an eye on. This here is the city of publication. This is the publisher, the publication date, and the word print, indicating that you had the book in hand. It was a print source, not something you accessed online. So you see there's what type of information you need, whether it's italic or not, punctuation, there are periods in between these different parts of it, the order of information, what gets capitalized. There are a lot of details to worry about with citation. Here's a web page. That's a fairly common one, and I'll do one of your web pages as a sample. So this has the author of the web page, if you have one. If you didn't have one, you'd start here with the title. This is the title of the web page. It gets quotation marks around it. This italicized here is the website. So the web page is the one single thing you can scroll through. The website is the larger collection of pages. So CNN.com. This implies this is not given because it's the URL. It's given because at this time on CNN's page, it actually said CNN.com on the site. Here, this is the publisher. You can see that in a copyright notice, usually at the bottom of the page. Here, Cable News Network. Sometimes the name of the website and the publisher are the same, in which case you repeat them. Italicized the first time, Roman the second. This here is the date that the site was posted or updated, whatever is the more recent date. There's a little bit of a mistake here because it should be MAR period. March gets abbreviated. The months are abbreviated to except for May, June, and July, to 3 letters typically, except for September, which is SEPT. Like I said, tons of little details. That's one that I've looked up about 682 million times. So finally I've learned it. But it's really about realizing what the questions are, and this is something, if you do this by hand, um, will take some looking up and checking models to refresh your memory. After a while, the common ones like web page and books and articles, you can usually, you'll pick it up after a while if you're doing, several research papers. Notice the order here: day, month, year. That's MLA order. Anytime you have a date, you'd put it in that format. I said up here we had print for a book that we had in hand, for an electronic source, anything that you access online, you'd have the word web, a period. And then there's a second date here for anything that you accessed online. Because the internet is changing all the time, or could be changing all the time, it's important to give an access date. So this is the date that you found the source, or used the source. So you should have it. Sometimes students can't remember this, in which case I tell them just to, put a plausible date in there for the particular semester at hand, sometime after you were given the assignment. So that's that. Notice that in formatting, the first line is at the margin. The second and any subsequent lines are indented. That's called a hanging indent. You can do it in Microsoft Word easily. On the blog, it's not going to work so well, so don't worry about it on your blog entries. Okay, so let me show you how to do one of these, and then when we do that, then what I'm going to do is hyperlink the title. So I'm going to get into your blog, and I thought I'd signed in. Let me, I am signed in here. Why am I not signed in here? Okay. All right, so because you've done this join a class, I can get into your dashboard, which normally I wouldn't do, but this is one reason why it's sometimes helpful to be able to get in, though. So I'm just going to go, I can go to all posts, and let me go to that, your argument. Okay, so notice if you, sorry, I've already gotten rid of that page, but, oh, excuse me, let me just jump back here a minute. This Writing Center handout is fairly brief. Sometimes it's hard to tell what the different things are as you go read across the citation. So I have given you a couple other sites that have more information. The Purdue Online Writing Lab has a section about MLA that has more information, that if you have questions or different types of, a more unusual type of source, you can get to. So I link right here to the MLA section of the Purdue OWL, and the navigation here is on the left. There's some information about basic format, and you can see the in-text citation information is here. The works cited pages for various types of sources are here. So that's one of the first things, if you have a source, to identify what type of source it is. Electronic sources are the types, of course, that most students are using. And if you can look here, what she does here is give the types of sources up here, so you can scroll down an entire website, a page on a site, an image. So this is where I pulled the information for the photo essay from, article in a web magazine, scholarly journal, etc. And so here you see it gives, it tells you what the different things are, and then it gives you a sample. I think there's a standard one here. Sometimes you don't have some of this information, in which case you just leave it out. If you don't have a publisher, you use NP and ND for if there's not a date here, especially for the date of, you always will have an access date, but you might not have a date on the website. Okay, so let me go back here. So notice that in those, there isn't any, excuse me, let me just hop back one more minute. There's another one here. This is more like a section out of a writer's handbook from Norton. So you can look at these three and see which you find more easy to use. There are also automatic citation machines that you can use. If you're interested in trying those out, let me know and I'll make another video. This is getting really long. So let me just do the by hand way. So notice on those sites, the URL isn't listed at all. So what you're going to need to do is put this into the format. You've got a website here. So what I'm going to do is I'll copy and paste it. I'm going to open this site up so we can look at it. Okay, so we had the citation format for a website. Let me get this on this Writing Center handout so we can scroll back and forth. Okay, so author's last name, title, author's name, title of the website, title of the web page, title of the website, publisher, date, web, access date. So if we look at this, there doesn't seem to be an author. Sometimes it's hidden down at the bottom. We'll check. This is not a great quality looking source, by the way. Students for Life. It's certainly abolish abortion in our lifetime. It's certainly a biased site. I'm not quite sure of their, credibility, but I'll just show you how to. So I would maybe reconsider using this source, but let me show you how to do the citation. Maybe I haven't had a chance to read your research essay yet, so you might use this in a way that's okay. So when I look at this, I'm looking for the title of the web page. That can sometimes be a challenge, figuring out what's a title of the page, what's the title of the site. It looks to me as if Abortion Facts is the title of the page, and this is kind of hard to. Students for Life of America. That's a kind of weird thing, but that's what looks like the title of the website. I don't know what this college is doing under here. So sometimes you just kind of have to do the best you can. So I'm going to go ahead and actually change this on your site. So we said Abortion Facts is the title, and then I want a period inside here. Then, and doing it this way with the link open and toggling back and forth, I think is a useful way to do it. Students for Life of America. Students for Life. Maybe Students for Life is a worldwide thing, and this is their American version. I don't know. And then we're going to italicize that because it's the whole website. Then we're going to look for a publisher. So it may well be the same, but as I said, we'll look down here, see if there's a copyright notice. Copyright Students for Life of America. So this is one of these cases where the title of the site and the publisher is the same. So I'll repeat it. And then we'll go back here. Now we're looking for a date. There is a copyright with a 2016 date. I don't think there's another posting date. So I would use that. We don't know. We notice, we don't have a day, month, and year, but we'll put what we've got. 16th. Then you're going to put the word web. Then some kind of an access date. So let's see. You updated this. You probably found it earlier than that. So I'm just going to guess that you went on the 20th, say, of April, APR 2000. Oh, whoops. Sorry. 2016 period. Okay, so that's the citation. Again, this would be normally the second line would be indented, but the blog doesn't do that very well. It is possible to do it on the blog, but you have to mess around with coding, and it's not worth it. I have trained the people reading the portfolios not to expect that kind of formatting on a blog, so it's not going to be a problem. Now we're going to do the hyperlinking part. So this URL is not going to show up here, but what I want to do is make this title into a hyperlink. So what I do there is I'm going to take the URL and copy it. Actually, I already had it copied. And then I'm going to go here and highlight the text that I want to be the link. So sometimes students do this whole site, this whole citation as the link. I just think it looks a little neat. Then you've got underlining, and it just doesn't look very, for my aesthetic eye, it doesn't look very nice that way. I think it looks a little neater if you just hyperlink the title. So hyperlink the title. You click here on this insert edit link. This is supposed to look like a paperclip link or a chain link, not a paperclip, that's for attach. So you click that. It gives you a window here. You paste the URL there. The text is already showing up. It picks it up when you highlight it. I personally like to click this, and typically I click this open link in a new tab because it's easier for me to navigate, and sometimes I end up closing out. I'm sometimes not too swift on picking that up, so I end up closing out of a site. If it's a different tab, I can just go back and then click add link. And then this URL we're not going to need, so we're going to delete it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and update this, so don't freak out if you see changes in your blog. It'll be too late if you've seen it already, but okay, and it'll take a little while. Okay, so it gets updated. Now notice when you go down here, it doesn't seem like it's a link here, but if we go outside and view the post and go down here, see how this, you can click it and it brings you to the source. That's what I mean by hyperlinking. Okay, so you asked the question about hyperlinking, but actually it raised a much more complicated issue of doing the citation. So what you need to do for these, the rest of these, I'll leave to you to do. They all are web sources, so they're going to follow this basic pattern. If you did have an author, the author's be last name, comma, first name, period, and then you'd continue with the web page, the website, the publisher, the date of posting or updating, the word web, and your access date, like that. Once you get them all done, then you're going to alphabetize them by whatever comes first here. So if if there's an author, or if there are other ones that just start with the title, whatever this first letter is, they just all, the ones with and without authors, just get alphabetized all together. Okay, so then there's the question of paper-based sources, and you had asked about, the difficulty of finding books that were available, so you didn't have to buy them. Certainly, I don't expect you to have to buy books. You've got a couple of choices. If you're looking for books, and if you find something in the library catalog that looks good, you do have the option. If you look on Amazon for a book, I don't know, let me see what, we're talking about, I'll just put abortion in here just for illustration's sake. If you look on Amazon, you do have the option, especially if it's a book by a large publisher, they do this look inside thing that sometimes can come in handy. It certainly is not going to give you the whole book, and you're not going to have the time or inclination to read the whole book anyway. But it'll let you often look at the introduction to a book, and you can sometimes get some good stuff from there. There probably is some official way to do that, to cite the Amazon version of a book, but what I suggest that students do in this case is just pretend that you had the book in hand and cite it as a paper source rather than an electronic source. Technically, that's not quite right, but it's not really a good authoritative. I wouldn't recommend this if you were doing a real important research paper, that you had some extended time to work on. Normally what you would do if you found this book and it looked really good, you would or serious researcher would want to get a hold of the book. You can get it through interlibrary loan if the library doesn't have it. There's a place on the library's webpage where you can put in the author and title, and they'll get the book for you anywhere that it is in the country. It takes a little bit of time, so that's useful for longer research projects if you're doing something over the course of a semester or even longer. Any academic library has an interlibrary loan service. So if you transfer somewhere, just keep that in mind that it is possible to get these books without paying for them, and then they'll be shipped to the library. And at BCC, they give you a call when the book is in. So books are an option if they're not available at a local public library, either the BCC library or your home local library. Try Amazon. Amazon does have a more flexible search capability, so you can put more in here than you can in a search. I think I mentioned that when I was talking about searching books on another video I did. The other thing, though, that I just wanted to emphasize, when I say print, I don't mean that you need a book. I mean something that it says in the assignment, sources that originally appeared in print. And in my face-to-face classes, I had more of a chance to emphasize this, and maybe it was in the assignment, and I maybe should go back and look at that. But let me try to clarify it here for you anyway. So when you go on the internet, sometimes you get a variety of different types of sources. The ones that you picked up all seem to be websites, so they're originally content originally created for the web. But there also is a lot of material on the internet that originally was a paper source. So if you go to NewYorkTimes.com, you're getting material that is in today's New York Times. So it's gone through the same kind of an editing process that just pure web-based stuff has not gone through. So when I say print source, I just mean something that originally appeared in print, but you can access it on the web. So that might mean going to something, you can go to NewYorkTimes.com. They have a section, let me see. Where did they hide it? It's called Times Topics. I'm not sure if that's there. Well, it got me there. They have a list of topics if you're looking for information about abortion. Doesn't seem to be here. Whoops. It has Alzheimer's disease. Why not abortion? I don't know. But anyway, so in other words, you could go to the web page of a journal or a magazine, and you can find information there that originally was in print. The other thing, I don't. Again, I had posted a link about that, and that was showing people how to use the databases. The databases really are the places is the place I would suggest going. You do have to have your library card, have your Access BCC card activated as a library card to get into the databases, but there is, if you haven't had a chance to do that, if you go to this page, Resources for E-Learners, it gives you a number to use. I thought I had put that in your information, but I'm not going to take the time to check that now. But this is what you'd use if you're asked for your library ID. So these databases you can access on campus. Anybody can access them. But if you're off campus, you have to authenticate that you have a BCC connection. I'll copy this right now because I don't always remember my own in case we need it. So let's see. We're going to go back here. So the databases are accessible by clicking on articles. So these are sources that you access electronically, but by and large, almost all of them were originally journals, newspaper articles, journal articles, magazine articles. Sometimes there's some book sources in there. If you go by subject, the library has categorized these databases. I would suggest going in the multidiscipline databases. If you're dealing, again, I don't know that the topic of your research paper is abortion. I think it's about access to birth control, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, these are the different databases, but a topic like that, will stick with abortion just because it's a hot button topic. You might try this opposing viewpoints. So I'm off campus, so it asks me for my barcode. I had copied that one from that resources for e-students or whatever they call it. So that'll let me log in. Should let me log in. This particular database is good for clearly pro-con type of arguable issues. It has some basic categories here, or you can put in a search term. So if we were doing abortion, we could put that in like that. So this is a book series. It also has this electronic website version. Both the book and the um, website have this section on viewpoints. These are the editors of the opposing viewpoint series go out to find a pair of articles that show the two different sides. They retitle the articles so that um, if you click in here, see there are 407 of these. You'll be able to see if you look. Parental consent laws protect teens, and there's somewhere around there'll be another one that will say something negative about parental consent laws, so you can see the pair. You can get into the viewpoint. So it has those viewpoints. It also has academic journal articles, 412 of them. It has featured viewpoints. It has primary sources. It has 11,000 news sources. So this is a way for topics like, particularly uh, pro-con type topics with two different two different clear views. You could find a lot of sources here. They all were printed sources, so they have that advantage. They also have been edited and selected, so they've been through several layers of editing. So if you're asked for an academic journal article, this is a way to go and find things that have been edited when they were academic journals. They've been edited to be accepted into this series. They're print sources. If you have instructors that are asking for print sources like me, the other advantage that you have is if you look here, and let me see if I can remember how you do this. Most all of these databases will do your citation for you. So that's another big advantage for some students. If you click here, it has MLA, and there's the citation. It's a little bit complicated to do by hand because this is something that appeared in the book. So it's got the title of the article, it's got the title of the book, it's got the editor of the book, the place of publication, the publisher, the date, but then it also was in a database, so it's got the name of the database, opposing views and context, the web, and then see it's automatically picking up today's date. So you can just copy and paste that there. The to do the hyperlink, there's one little thing about databases. You do not want to use this hyperlink because of that issue that you have to sign in. They don't want you to be able to hyperlink so that anybody can get to the article by hyperlinking. They want you to be that somebody who's off campus around the world somewhere who gets to your blog, who clicks it. They want them to get that page with the sign in where they have to put it and prove that they have some connection to BCC. So rather than this URL for hyperlinks, you'll use this bookmark URL, which I think was probably the same as the one where I got the citation there, where it said URL. it was probably the bookmark URL that it gave you as well. Some of the other databases call this a permalink. Um, uh, so just be careful about that when you're doing the link. But if you copy do get the citation, it'll have the database, and it will be possible for somebody to get back into the database and find it. Okay, so there excuse me, there are the other databases to try. You can see just how incredible amount of information available in these databases. They really, for academic researchers, they really are the go-to place rather than a Google search, um, because it's really giving you, good. It's not exclusively scholarly information, but it will include scholarly information. It does also include things like the New York Times and more popular kind of things, Atlantic Monthly and that kind of thing, um, and a tremendous number of them. Google searches are you pull up so many different sources and there are credibility issues there. There also is Google Scholar is a possibility. The issue with Google Scholar, which is a variety of Google. It does pull up good scholarly sources, but sometimes it'll give you a note that we've got this great source, but if you put in your credit card number, we'll charge you $59 and we'll send it to you. What you can do sometimes, if you find something through Google Scholar that they're going to try to make you pay for, then if you find something on Amazon, they're going to try to make you buy the book. Well, you can get it from a library. If you find something on Google Scholar, they're going to try to make you pay for. Go into the database, and you can often find it in the database. You can look and see. Let me see where it is. You can find where the journal, what database that might have the journal, and then you can search for the subject of the journal. But if you get into anything like that, anything more complicated, let me know. It's really, if you haven't done research before, there's a lot to it. We're just kind of in English 101 introducing you to some of the different ways, introducing you to citation, introducing you to databases, and thinking about credibility of sources and all that. So okay, so I think I've talked long enough. If you have any further questions, let me know. I can do another one of these targeted um, videos, and then I will try to get comments on your um, argument shortly. Okay, let me know if you're having other problems. Otherwise, I'll close for now.